From Philosopher to Hotelier, Entrepreneurship and the Hero's Journey. So today I'm going to talk about my experience in a program called Launch Savannah. It's a 12-week program that I pitched and put an application in for, and I was successful in my application, so I'm in the program. So we just did week one today, and week one the focus is on ideation. And two concepts that we talked about this week included a vision statement as well as entrepreneurship and the hero's journey. I'm definitely excited about the vision statement because I have a lot of the elements and components of that, and I'm going to continue working on that this week. That is our assignment for this week. But what I want to talk about in this particular video is entrepreneurship and the hero's journey, because that's something that really excited me and stood out to me in our first session this week. So again, I'm also excited about the vision statement because I love a good vision. I love a good strategic plan. It's who I am. It's what I do. But this notion of entrepreneurship and the hero's journey really resonated with me and excited me and had me thinking about the various hero's journeys that I've actually been on in my life. Again, going from philosopher and moving toward hotelier, right? So I'm Dr. Catherine Sophia Bell, and my idea that I pitched for Launch Savannah is Bell's Boutique Hotel. I want to own a boutique hotel, and what I am envisioning here is a hub for business meetings, for conferences, for retreats, as well as a social gathering space for locals as well as for visitors here in Savannah, Georgia, which is where I am now located, what I call my spiritual home, Savannah, Georgia. I say my target audience is explicitly but not exclusively Black women high achievers, writers, professionals, entrepreneurs, and travelers, right? So I say I know my target audience because I am my target audience, right? And so I'm excited about this ideation phase of this project for me, of this vision for me, and I'm looking forward to seeing that develop over the 12 weeks that I'm in the program. But again, what I want to talk about in this particular video is this notion of the entrepreneur as being on this hero's journey. And again, it made me think about the various hero's journeys I've experienced, because I would say one of my initial hero's journeys was my journey into philosophy and into the academy. And then I would say this new journey that I'm on into becoming a boutique hotel owner is a new hero's journey for me out of academia and into being a hotelier, right? So I want to go through the components of the hero's journey. So the notion of the hero's journey comes from Joseph Campbell's book. I believe it's titled A Thousand Faces of the Hero, or The Hero Has a Thousand Faces, or something like that, right? And so there have been various kind of spin-offs or short summaries of the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell. So one in particular that I'm looking at, and the one that they talked about in Launch Savannah, is one that comes from a blog post from July 25th, 2017, called The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell by Avinash Kaur. And so there is a visual with that if you do an internet search for The Hero's Journey and look under images, you can probably find this blog post and this visual, right? So in the actual book, which I haven't read yet, but I am going to order so that I can read it. I first heard about this book, I want to say, from Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. But I think I've read about it in her book, like Big Ideas or something like that. It's like a book that looks like it has cotton candy on it with like pinks and blues. But anyway, Elizabeth Gilbert, I think, is the first person that I heard of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey from. But here is this, and again, in the initial book, I think there's like 17 different stages that the hero goes through on the hero's journey. So this is a very condensed version. But in this blog version of it, the notion is that there is a call to adventure, meeting a mentor, crossing the threshold from the known to the unknown, trials and failures, as well as a helper showing up, new growth and new skill sets developed, a death and rebirth, a revelation, the hero finally changes, there's an atonement, the hero receives a gift or gets a gift, and then returns to the previous known world but change, and then the hero's journey starts all over again with a new adventure. And so I was thinking about this in terms of my own experience of having a hero's journey, again going into philosophy and going into the academy, and then coming out of the academy and going into this new venture that I'm on. So here is how I have thought about or outlined my hero's journey with philosophy and academia. So my call to adventure, I finished high school in 3 years at the age of 16. I went to Spelman College as an undergraduate, where I started out as a biology pre-med and pre-law major with intentions on doing a JD MD so that I could practice law dealing with medical research ethics when I finished. But starting out as a biology major, I realized that I was not doing that well in the biology class. That was a prerequisite for the major and for the pre-med. And so I went to the different departments and said, this is what I want to do when I finish. I want to do a JD/MD. And the philosophy department had the strongest argument for how philosophy could help me with both medical school and law school. So by my sophomore year, I changed my major from biology, pre-med, and pre-law to philosophy. And I was still thinking about potentially going to law school or doing international studies. At a certain point, I dropped medical school altogether because I figured if I didn't love the biology part of it, I didn't really have a sustainable interest in, let alone a passion for the sciences. So medical school probably was not going to work out for me, right? So I changed my major to philosophy. So again, I would say my initial call to adventure on my philosophy journey would be changing my major to philosophy. And then once I was in it for a while, I found out probably, I think, my junior year, at the beginning of my senior year, that there were only 16 Black women in the country with a PhD in philosophy. And I felt a moral and personal obligation to increase our representation in a discipline. So that really shifted my trajectory. And I remember majoring in philosophy, there was a book I read, The Death of Ivan Illich, which was a very important book on my own hero's journey. Actually, my 16-year-old son was just here with me last month and has heard me talk about that book and decided to take that book with him back to with his dad going back there. So anyway, so that was a book that helped me think about, like, what do I really want to do? And I realized in my mind, I couldn't really imagine what I could do with philosophy, or that I could make a living with philosophy. Like, I knew it was important. I knew I loved it, but I couldn't really imagine making a living out of it, or even being a professor. So I was still thinking about law school or maybe international studies. And there was something about learning that statistic that there were only 16 Black women in the country with a PhD in philosophy that really propelled and compelled me to want to pursue graduate studies in philosophy, and really just have faith that getting a PhD in philosophy would work out for me, right? So again, we're still on the call to adventure. So I changed my major to philosophy. I learned that there are only 16 Black women in the country with a PhD in philosophy, and I decided to pursue my PhD in philosophy. So that's what I'm describing as my call to adventure with my journey with philosophy and academia. The next stage is meeting a mentor. And I will say I've never had just a single mentor. I've always had multiple mentors. I have gratitude for the mentors that have always been in my life and continue to come into my life. So I definitely had a prominent undergraduate mentor who helped me with my writing. I took a lot of my philosophy classes with him, where we had to write a paper a week, and that really helped me to develop my writing skills, my argument skills, my ability to analyze text and things like that. So all my professors, certainly at Spelman, were mentors, but there was one in particular as a philosophy major that helped me to prepare for philosophy. I would also say people like Beverly Guy Shefdahl, who is a women's studies professor, runs the Women's Research and Resource Center at Spelman College, was and continues to be a mentor for me. So lots of mentors at the undergraduate level and beyond. I definitely also had a prominent graduate school mentor who helped me navigate getting through the different requirements for earning my PhD in philosophy. And then I would say after graduate school, I also had a number of mentors who helped me just learn more about the, writing a book, the publication process, putting together, proposals and cover letters and things like that for presses to publish my first book. Again, navigating tenure and promotion and getting my dossier together and those kinds of things. So, meeting the mentor. For me, it's never just the mentor or a single or solo mentor. I've always had multiple mentors. So shout out to all of my mentors throughout my academic career. Crossing the threshold is the next phase, going from the known to the unknown. And so for me, I would say crossing the threshold included going from the known comfort of Spelman College, which is a small liberal arts college, HBCU, women's college. There was a way in which Spelman was just this beautiful, magical, mystical cocoon that really encouraged me and loved on me and prepared me for the things that would come after Spelman. But that was a known world that I did have to walk out of in order to walk into the graduate school space. So I went to a predominantly white institution, the University of Memphis, for graduate school. And so I would say that was my threshold crossing, going from Spelman College to the University of Memphis. Let's see, trials, failures, and helpers. One of the things that I realized quickly, and this is also related to that threshold crossing, is that the way that philosophy was done at Spelman College, again, historically black, small liberal arts, women's college, and the way philosophy was done at the University of Memphis, predominantly white institution, were very different. And so at Spelman, for example, regardless of what philosophy class we were taking, race, class, and gender were always taken seriously as important components to any conversation about philosophy. Whereas in graduate school at a predominantly white institution, I happened to go to an institution that did emphasize things like feminist philosophy and critical philosophy of race, but it was still interesting to see the kind of mental gymnastics that were done to avoid talking about race, class, gender, sexuality, and those kinds of things in some of my philosophy courses. So there was some kind of trial and error involved in figuring that out and adjusting accordingly, governing myself accordingly. It was also interesting to learn and notice the kind of jockeying for positions that was happening, for example, amongst the graduate students or even amongst the faculty in some cases. Lots of folks wearing masks. For me, some of my challenges in graduate school also included the fact that I got married and had 2 kids while I was in graduate school, but I still finished in 4 years. And then also just navigating the job market. So I finished my degree in 4 years, even though I had 5 years of funding. So that 5th year, I was given a postdoctoral fellowship, which was wonderful because it paid more than my graduate assistantship paid. And then from that postdoc, I got a postdoc at Emory University. Then I got a tenure track job at Vanderbilt University, and then I got a postdoc and another tenure track job at Penn State University. So all of that was done again with mentors, with helpers, but there were certainly challenges along the way. Let's see, the next phase is new growth skills. So for me, my new growth and skill set that I was able to build not only at Spelman College, but also build on that foundation at the University of Memphis and in grad school, included developing my research, my writing, my speaking skills, teaching skills, as well as service. So administrative work that I was doing, developing different initiatives and things like that. So for example, when I was in graduate school, even though I earned my Ph.D. in philosophy, when I was doing that postdoctoral fellowship, I had an opportunity to work with another department, African and African American Studies, and they were revamping their curriculum, and I had an opportunity to work with them to revamp their curriculum and to teach some of those courses. And that was helpful for me when I went on the job market, because it meant that I could not only apply to philosophy jobs, but I could also apply to African American Studies jobs, Africana Studies jobs, Black Studies jobs, etc. So yeah, lots of new growth and skills developed in college as well as in grad school. Okay, the death and rebirth. For me, the death and rebirth included disillusionment. Well, and on a personal note, I had death and rebirth with regard to the church and leaving the church, and with regard to marriage and leaving my marriage, getting what I call happily unmarried and delightfully divorced, but focusing again on this philosophy and academia kind of hero's journey that I've had. I would say my death and rebirth had to do with disillusionment with professional philosophy and academia, and ultimately deciding to resign and retire after a successful 20-year career. So yeah, that part. So I was in the academy for 20 years. I had tenure. I was promoted to associate professor. I was about to go up for my next promotion to quote unquote full professor, which I would have gotten because I had published the book that was required for that, and I had a number of different other articles and accolades. But I was disillusioned, and as I often say, my ancestors and spirit guides said not only get out, but get out now, and I listened. So that was my death and rebirth experience. Revelation for me, I think, was again connecting to my intuition, my ancestors, my spirit guides, but also realizing that I have highly transferable skills. So a lot of times I think we stay in things because we think I only know how to do this thing, right? Like I spent however many years in college, well, 4 years in college and 4 years in graduate school, earning my Ph.D. in philosophy, 20 years in the academy, building this academic record. And what does it look like to walk away from that and start over? And so, even though I definitely have a fresh start, I'm not starting from zero. I get to bring all of that experience and expertise that I built over a 20-year academic career into my entrepreneurship journey. And there are a lot of parallels and overlaps between what I did as a philosopher and all of the initiatives that I started and what I want to do with as an entrepreneur and my vision for this boutique hotel. And I will say that my vision for the boutique hotel is very much informed by my philosophical studies, my specializations in Black feminist philosophy and critical philosophy of race and Africana philosophy and existentialism and phenomenology and other things, right? So I get to bring all of that brilliance and genius and experience and expertise from academia into my entrepreneurship journey, and I'm excited about that. Okay, so the next phase is the hero finally changes. I think for me, the finally changing was when I officially submitted my letter of resignation. So I submitted my letter of resignation on March 1st of 2023, effective June 30th, 2023, and I moved to Savannah, Georgia in June of 2023. Atonement, I have question marks here. I'm not quite sure what my atonement has been or for what I atoned. So I'll have to revisit this. Gifts. I would say I've definitely received a lot of gifts along the way on this journey. One is when I put in my letter of resignation March 1st, within like 2 weeks of me announcing that, I received a message from someone who was directing a fellowship in Germany who said, I saw that you're resigning and leaving academia, but you were on my wish list for this fellowship, and let me know if you're interested in applying. And so I said, okay, well, send me the description, and if it's aligned with, what I work on, then I will go ahead and apply. And so they sent me the description, and it was as if they had written the description precisely for me. Everything that I did was in the description, so it felt aligned. So I applied for it, and I got that fellowship. And that was a gift because for me, it was like the universe whispering that to me, that I would be fine. It was okay for me to walk away from this, again, tenured associate professor position, knowing that there were other opportunities available to me that I did not even know about. So it was a boost of encouragement and kind of positive reinforcement around my decision to resign from that position, that quote unquote job for life position, knowing that other opportunities were available to me. So that was one gift that I received. And then moving to Savannah, Savannah itself has been a gift, that I've been able to connect to some beautiful people and build beloved community here in the 2 years that I've been here. So those have all been gifts. Returns to previously known world but changed. I would say my version of returning to the previously known world would be building out La Bellevue Academy and La Bellevue Writers, where I still have a connection to academics and scholars. I still work with them in terms of the writing programs that I offer, the course suites that I offer, the coaching that I offer, but I certainly engage with them from a very different, changed place now that I've walked away from academia. So I often say, for people who are still in it, I know how to help you navigate it and negotiate it. For people who want to get out of it, I know how to help you navigate and negotiate your exit strategies. Start new venture. So I would say my new venture would be officially started with me, again, moving to Savannah. And then that takes me into the next hero's journey. So the hero's journey that I just spoke about was my hero's journey into philosophy and academia. And then ultimately, out of academia, at least in the capacity of professor and administrator, though I will always be a philosopher or lover of wisdom. Okay, so now I'm going to go through where I am because I have not yet completed the hero's journey for this next venture, but I think I have a sense of where I am on the hero's journey. So the next hero's journey is my journey with entrepreneurship, specifically this boutique hotel, Bell's Boutique Hotel. So my call to adventure, I would say this initial call for me actually came in the summer of 1999 when I visited Savannah for my 21st birthday. So the summer of 1999, I was between wrapping up my undergraduate studies at Spelman College and I was about to start my graduate studies at the University of Memphis. And I came to visit Savannah that summer. And I remember when I visited here, I had a very clear vision of like, oh, I would love to have like a bed and breakfast or inn or boutique hotel in Savannah. Like it was just such a beautiful city. The food was delicious. The architecture was amazing. There was just something about this place that really spoke to me. But of course, I was literally on my way into this other hero's journey into philosophy and into the academy. I was about to start my graduate studies in philosophy. So this hero's journey with my boutique hotel is one that would have to be deferred because I needed to complete the philosophy and academia hero's journey before I could enter into this boutique hotel hero's journey. But I never forgot that vision that I had when I came here at 21 in the summer of 1999. So fast forward 20 years after that, or 25 years going on, well, I guess from 1999 to 2023, when I decided to resign from my tenured associate professor and administrative positions, as I was looking at where I wanted to go next and where I wanted my next phase to be, I took I did what I called focus on me tours where I would visit different cities, mostly solo, or sometimes I would invite friends or lovers to visit with me in different cities. But I found that I kept coming back to Savannah. Savannah kept calling me back. And so when it was time for me to decide where I was going to move after leaving my, again, tenured associate professor and administrative positions, Savannah is where I decided to come home to because it very much feels like a spiritual home. And that vision for the boutique hotel has been with me all these years. And so I'm very excited about that call to adventure and being on that adventure. In terms of meeting my mentor on this particular hero's journey, again, I would say there are lots of mentors. I definitely embrace the multi-mentor model instead of the mono-mentor model. So I've had over the years lots of business coaching. When I first moved to Savannah, I attended events hosted by the Greater Savannah Black Chamber of Commerce, and I joined the Black Chamber of Commerce. There's a wonderful, really strong Spelman Alumni Association here in Savannah, Georgia. So again, that initial hero's journey of going to Spelman College has carried over into this new hero's journey because I've been able to really connect with community with my Spelman sisters here in Savannah. I also joined the Savannah Chamber of Commerce, or what I call the White Chamber of Commerce, here in Savannah. And there's also just a number of different resources available for entrepreneurs and business owners in Savannah, which I love. So I've attended several workshops with the Savannah Entrepreneurial Center. I've attended the Mayor's Small Business Conference. And that is actually, I think, where I initially heard about Launch Savannah, and I was able to successfully apply for and get into Launch Savannah. So a number of different mentors. I've also recently joined two organizations for Black hotel owners and operators. One is NABHOOD. I think it's the National Association of Black Hotel Owners, Operators, and Developers. And the other one is HUDE. I don't remember what HUDE stands for, but when I was researching boutique hotels and Black-owned hotels and Black women-owned hotels, those are two organizations that came up as resources and places where I could definitely network and find mentorship. So I'm looking forward to attending those conferences this summer of 2025. So yeah, so meeting my mentors, always plural, because again, I believe in multi-mentorship, not mono-mentorship. Okay, and then crossing the threshold from the known to the unknown. So for me, on this particular hero's journey with going from philosopher to hotelier, it required and has involved me leaving the known world of academia. Again, I was in it for 20 years. I had a really successful career. I learned and understood how to navigate and negotiate and excel in the academy. And I felt called at a certain point and no longer felt aligned. I felt called to walk away from it and to walk into this new venture. So my crossing from the known to the unknown is crossing from the known world of academia that I was in for the last 20 years into this unknown world of becoming a hotelier. Um, and also the known world of, again, having tenure meant that I, quote unquote, had a job for life. Of course, the whole academic structure is being torn apart and dismantled as we speak. But theoretically speaking, once you get tenure as a professor, it becomes very difficult to be fired from that position, right? And I remember people asking me, well, two men in particular asked, are you sure you want to walk away from a job for life? And when they said that, I had less fear about walking away from the quote unquote job security of being a tenure professor. And it felt more like a life sentence to me, because again, it was like I had done what I needed to do there. I knew it was time for me to move on and do other things. It was no longer aligned for me. And again, my ancestors and spirit guides said, not only get out, but get out now. And I listened. So I'm definitely in this unknown space of, again, ideating and building out my vision and business plan for my boutique hotel. So that is where I am in this hero's journey at this point. I still have the other parts, the trials, failures, and helper, the new growth skills, the death and rebirth, revelation, finally changing, atonement, receiving gifts, returning to the previous known world but changed, and then we'll see what the next adventure is. But I hope that you have found this helpful. I know I have personally found it helpful just for myself to reflect on just, again, my own heroes' journeys. Again, when they use that language, that resonated with me. I think just as a humanities person, as a philosopher, as a writer, as a scholar, I'm in this entrepreneurship space, but those humanities things still very much speak to me. I think that's a strength that I'm bringing into these spaces that I'm entering into. So shout out to Launch Savannah and the city of Savannah and all the amazing things that are happening here. Again, I feel very much at home. I feel very much loved and supported here. And I will continue to report back each week what the lessons or takeaways are, or kind of core things that stand out to me as I'm going through this 12-week Launch Savannah program. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. If you've been on your own hero's journey or journeys, I would love to hear about your hero's journey and what your takeaways have been from your hero's journey and what areas of life. So I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Okay.